Germination is a professional development project for early childhood educators, emerging artists and musicians. Through playful workshops, work-based experiences, and with the support of a mentor, Magic Acorns has been learning about how we can support and nurture creative practitioners in musical play. In this episode, Dr. Jessica Pitt talks to musician Bella Askew about developing their practice of musical play.
Well, welcome everyone to this episode of the Germination podcast series. It's great, Bella, that you are able to be with us today. Thanks so much for coming. I wonder, could you just, I know who you are, obviously, but could you just sort of give a bit of background about who you are and how you got involved in the project?
Yeah, so my name's Bella Askew. I'm 23 years old, from Norwich, and I'm a musician. I've always studied music. I did it at City College, and I went to university in Brighton to study songwriting. And since I've been home after uni, I've been working up as a solo musician around Norwich. And I've always loved children. So seeing the Germination project come available, I thought this is perfect for me because I get to mix working with children and music. So yeah, it's something I was really excited about, and I applied, and then I got onto the project. So here we are.
Yeah. So, how's it been for you? What are your, I know you've recently just been on a visit, so that's, fresh in your mind, but how's the project been for you?
Yeah, the project's been amazing. I mean, it's been spread over a few months, and at first it was quite well, to be honest, it was quite unusual because I didn't know what I was expecting. And for the first few weeks I kind of was having the thought of, what am I doing here? I don't get it. Like, I don't think I'm doing enough. And then slowly, as time went on, the pieces of the puzzle all came together. And towards the end, I was just thinking, I don't want this to be over. Like, it's not been long enough. It just feels like it's getting started. I'm getting comfortable. Like, I get it now. So yeah, and the last few nursery visits that I've had have been really incredible, and I've experienced some really beautiful moments with the kids. And even afterwards, it's been something that I've been thinking about a lot in my head. So yeah, it's been a really wonderful opportunity, to be honest, and I feel really grateful that I've been able to be part of it, because there's only 10 of us that have been on the project, so yeah, I do feel very lucky.
Wow, that's wonderful to hear. And you said at the start that it felt sort of like the pieces didn't quite fit together. What happened at the beginning, and then how did you come to kind of get to understand how they fitted together? I'm really interested in that.
Well, I think our first day was a training day. And I think because I hadn't worked with kids before professionally, like, I've got a really big family, I'm used to being around young children, but I'm related to them, it's different. But our first training day, it was difficult to picture what it was like actually using that in a nursery setting. And even when I first went into the nursery, I think I was a little just taking it all in, I'd say, rather than, like, I was getting involved with the kids, but it just, it took a little while for it to add up. But then as we had more training days, all the stuff that we were doing became really useful, and I was like, oh yeah, I see how we can use that, or this tip would be really good. And even though in the training days it's a room full of adults, you can still sort of in your mind compare it to, okay, I see how this would work when you're doing it with kids, I see how it would be different. And even some of the Zoom calls that we had, like about the project you guys did recently with the salt project you did, there was so many really useful tips in that. Just even little things like, getting down on kids' level, like, so your eye level with them, and just, certain ways of communicating with them I used in my next nursery visit, and it was really successful, and I could see clearly how well it worked, so yeah. Just as it went on, it all sort of woved in together, and I was like, okay, I'm getting it now, I get it.
Oh, there's so many things there that I'd like to pick up on, my goodness. So what was the thing that you tried from the salt music sort of online session? What was the thing you tried in the nursery?
Yeah, so the thing in the nursery, like I said, I turned up, I think this was my second nursery visit, I turned up and I got down onto the girl's level, so I wasn't just like stood towering above her. So I instantly felt like I was within her world. And I was like mimicking her, what she was doing, mimicking her actions. This is all stuff that was said in the Zoom chat.
Yeah.
And also the main thing that I did, though, which I found really helpful, like personally for me as well, is that you don't have to always be doing loads. So in the Zoom chat, the SALT one that you had, it was with one of the mentors, and she was sat quite close to a child who was really involved in like playing this drum. He was like creating this sound and this song out of this drum, and actually the mentor wasn't doing much at all. Her posture was really open and engaged, but she wasn't getting involved in the drum. She wasn't even using any like verbal sound or noise. And I think if she had been more involved, it would have interrupted the flow of what the little boy was doing. And that was really useful for me, because I think it's easy to get inside your own head and go, oh, I'm not doing enough, I'm not being engaging enough, I need to be playing more or creating more or doing more. And actually sometimes just sitting back and allowing the space to unfold, the children, they take it away. And it doesn't mean that you're not doing enough. It's just different from, I think, what I expected. So just little things like that were helpful, I think, for the kids also, because it meant they got to do what they wanted to do, but also for me, because usually that would make me feel uncomfortable if I wasn't doing enough.
Exactly. Gosh, you've hit on something very subtle but really, really important, I think. And then just thinking, the other thing I was going to ask about the training day.
Mm-hmm.
So you were saying that you were doing these activities as adults, and then you could translate it, if you like, into how it would work with children. Yeah. What did it feel like doing those things as adults? Did it feel like you were having to pretend to be childlike? Or can you say something about what those activities were like and how it felt?
Yeah, for sure. So at first, particularly on the first day, those activities, it was sort of a bit, I wouldn't say uncomfortable, but there was definitely something about it that didn't add up, because you're questioning, like, what am I doing, what are the boundaries, and I'm not really sure what's going on. But after a little while you get in the zone and you get lost in the moment completely. And I've used this before, I said it feels like in those training days that we are embodying toddlers, and it's not that you're pretending to be a toddler, you just take on this childlike state, and I think that in itself is really wonderful and really beautiful, because that childlike state is just being in the present moment. It's just fully being involved in what you're doing. And I think that's one of the wonderful things about working with children, is since doing the Germination project, that's what I've noticed when I've worked with the kids or when I've been in the training days. It's these moments that I'm just getting lost in, and I don't get to experience that in everyday life, in my normal busy city life. I'm not experiencing that, and that's been one of the most magical things for me, I think. Totally getting lost in the moment. So it at points it was sort of questioning, like, oh, what am I doing in this? But after a while it doesn't feel like you're pretending to be a toddler, you're just embodying one naturally.
So we can be at one and the same time an adult, but also enjoying something that's kind of primal, or goes back to something that's very in you anyway. Because my experience of the playdays when I came was that the activities, they weren't things that you do with a 2-year-old, like those sound activities, although you could adapt them possibly to set it up in that way. They were kind of adult designed, weren't they? And singing the stairwell and all those things, and playing the room and those kinds of activities. So they were kind of adult, they were thought about from an adult point of view, and yet somehow they tapped into something that was not adult. It's very hard to put into words exactly what I mean, but it seemed to go beyond age. I don't know.
Yeah.
You're still talking about moving out of time, that time changes as well.
Yeah, for sure. You just lose all sense of you don't become important anymore. You're just there, existing.
Exactly. So that for me was such a lovely opportunity, because it's rare to get a whole bunch of adults in a room to do those activities with. And we were quite a big group, weren't we? Sort of singing in that stairwell. We were quite a crowd. And somehow, well, I don't know, how did you react to that?
Well, the stairwell in particular, I think that for me is amazing. In fact, I've asked one of the mentors if I can start going to her choir sessions, because I just think it felt quite primal, just singing in a group of people, and I'm a vocalist. That's the main thing that I do. I'm a singer, but I rarely sing with other people. Like, sometimes I'll perform in a band or whatever, but it's very different doing it in that sort of scenario. And it felt like it was just filling my heart and soul, like really filling me up. So yeah, that's something that I want more of. I totally want more of.
Yeah, absolutely. So what's the impact for you as a musician, do you think? Can you say yet, or do you know yet?
Yeah, I do. I think the work that Germination is doing and what you're teaching us to do has just been really rewarding, to be honest. And it's like my last nursery visit, I was thinking, oh God, what project could I come up with to come back here and, like, as a musician, and bring to the kids and to the nursery, because it was just such a wonderful experience and I didn't want to leave. And nor did my mentor. Neither of us wanted to leave. So I think as a musician, it's really lovely, because a lot of the work that I do as an artist is, it's personal to me. I'm a songwriter. A lot of the songs I write, it's kind of like therapy for me. That's my outlet. It's very personal to me. So it's yeah, as a musician, it's really wonderful to do work, I guess, with communities, expand it and make it less about me and more about other people.
Yeah. And if you were going to talk to somebody about this particular model of sort of exploratory education, training, whatever we want to call it, what would you say to somebody about playing together as a training model? What does it give you that, maybe a course which had sort of learning outcomes or whatever couldn't give you?
Well, I'd just say go into it with an open mind, throw yourself into it, because you're going to get the best outcome from that. And it's nice because it's sort of a mix of music and theatre, movement. It's a mixture of it all, which is quite nice, because not all of the people on the course were musicians. Some of them were practitioners, early years practitioners, but others were dancers as well, weren't they? They weren't all musicians. But I think it would work really well. There's so many courses out there, and a lot of them aren't practical based. Even when I went to university to do songwriting, I was expecting that to be really hands-on and practical and be a lot more actually creating music, and it wasn't. It was 80-90% essay based, writing based, which was a little bit disappointing for 3 years. I wanted it to be more hands on. So I think as a module, if it was going to have like those learning outcomes and to be a set thing, I think it would work really well. And there's not many out there like that, I don't think. No. I've not come across any, at least.
Yeah. So it's given you something that perhaps writing an essay would never have.
No.
In a way, it's something different.
No.
Yeah. And if those people are listening out there, what one piece of advice or pieces of advice could you share about working creatively with young children? What things have you kind of discovered that you think would be really a good tip to pass on?
So this is actually one of the first things that one of the mentors said to us on our training day. So he hadn't even worked with the kids yet. And they touched on the awkwardness. None of us had met, or maybe a couple of us knew each other briefly. And they just said, move into the awkwardness, channel it, use it, embrace it. It doesn't have to be a feeling that you're like, oh God, this is awkward, and try and get rid of it. And I think that's the same. When you go into the nursery, if you turn up and you're sort of a bit like, oh God, what am I doing? A bit awkward. That's okay. Move with it, accept it, embrace it. And it will, without a doubt, it will just dissipate as the day goes on, So I think that for me was a really lovely bit of advice as well, because, awkwardness doesn't have to be a negative feeling. It has negative connotation. So of course you just want to push it away. But if you just accept it, recognize it, move into it.
Oh, that is a fantastic tip,
Hmm.
because I think we all can feel uncomfortable
Yeah.
in creative processes with children at times.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I think that one piece of advice is just brilliant, because children will show you the way, won't they?
100%. They'll show you the way. And that's it. When I turned up at the nursery, I think it was just yesterday, honestly, within a few minutes, I had about 10 kids just jumping on me. Totally just jumping on me. And it was a bit of a muddy day, but I was like, okay, I'm gonna get fully involved, like covered in mud in my hair. I was like, this is it, it's happening. And it was great, it was lovely. It was like, at that point I hadn't even done anything. They just were like, okay, a new person. Church.
Giving off the right vibes, clearly.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's brilliant.
There wasn't room for awkwardness there.
No, I mean, what I'm picking up from you is like a sense of abandonment. You could just abandon yourself to being in the moment there with the children. It sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how lovely that the setting didn't mind that, that could happen. That's
It was really nice. And I think because it was outside as well.
Yeah.
It was an outdoor setting, so it did feel different, and there was just so much playing going on anyway, and they were really happy for it. And they said at the end as well, if ever you want to come back for a visit, which I would really love to do if I can, I'd really love to bring more of what Germination has taught me. If I can carry that on in some way, that would be amazing.
Yeah, definitely. So it seems like that for you would be the legacy for this project, for you, to try to find some other source, maybe one of those arts council professional,
Yeah, for sure. And I think as well, touching on the legacy, I just think if more people, more musicians or more practitioners can carry on doing what we're doing, if you can just spread the word, or find other people that might be interested in it. Because I mean, I probably wouldn't have gone down this road without Germination. That I saw the project and I thought, that is me, that is so me. But I don't know where else I'd find the training. And I've always wanted to work with kids. I thought about doing child development when I was in high school or college, or whatever, because I love kids so much. But I didn't go down that road. So for me, working with kids, I'm sort of like, where do I start? Because I've not had the opportunity to do it professionally. And I know you need to do a lot of training to be able to work with kids. So this for me is just like a foot in the door, and it's really opened my eyes, and opened a lot of windows of opportunity for me, I think. And it's got me excited.
Amazing.
Got me excited.
You combine it with your songwriting. It's not like you have to relinquish one in order to do the other.
Exactly. And this is what one of the mentors was saying to me. She knows so many musicians that work full time, and on their days off they're just recovering from working full time in hospitality, because you're always on your feet, and they never get time to be creative, do their creative work. But working in this way, it means you get to do the best of both.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I don't know about you, but I know for myself that working with young children, although at the end of a day you can feel sort of physically exhausted, I always feel sort of energized and invigorated by being with them. I find that they think they'll join completely opposing kind of things together in ways that I would never have thought possible.
Yeah.
To create something new, and to I just find them just infinitely brilliant.
Yeah, and I think the word there is infinitely. Possibilities with them are infinite. Their creativity, their spontaneity, all of it, it's just infinite. And that's why I think it's really wonderful to do work with them, because we as adults, I think, we lose part of that. As we get older, we lose part of that, and we only tap into it, in moments like these, working with children.
Exactly. So it's sort of feeding.
Yeah.
It kind of feeds us as well in a funny sort of way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So is there anything else that we need to touch on, do you think, that we haven't talked about already?
No, I think the only thing that I'd like to mention is, I think I have touched on it already, but there was in one of my previous nursery sessions, towards the end, I was already so tired that day, and you think, working with kids, you do have to come up with a lot of energy, and if you've been there for a while, it can be a bit difficult finding energy. And towards the end of the session, I was getting in my head and I was thinking, oh no, like I'm not doing enough, I'm not being engaging enough, like that one. And the practitioners said about this little boy, we were working with, I think, 3 SEND children, and the practitioner said about this one particular little boy, this is the happiest we've seen him in ages here. Like, this is the happiest he's been. And it was such a lovely moment, because there I was thinking, oh, this is what this little boy's like every day in the nursery. It's the first time I've met him, and I was just thinking no different, and I was worrying too much about what I was doing, and they were just like, this is the happiest he's been. And that was one of the moments that I thought about afterwards, and it was like, actually, if they hadn't have said that little comment, I probably wouldn't have even thought about the impact that we brought a big drum in with scarves and shaky eggs, and they were all having such an amazing time. I probably wouldn't have clocked how impactful that was on that little boy, So I think that's I just wanted to mention.
Oh, that's really useful, because we can get so caught up with what we as artists or artist practitioners or musicians should be doing. That's so easy to get caught up in the doing, and to have had that moment, to realise that actually it's really all about how the children are responding. And actually what you were doing was enough. That's that, in the moment reflections are really hard, aren't they? And to have somebody feed that back to you, I mean, that was a really useful thing that practitioner did. I wonder if she picked up something from you that needed to know that, or these things are quite subtle, aren't they?
They are.
Everyone tunes into each other.
And I think it was nice. Our first nursery visit was said to be an observation. Which it ended up not being an observation at all. I just totally played the entire time. But that was really useful, because it kind of made me see that just by us being there is sometimes that's all you need, as long as you've got an open mind and you're just willing to go with the flow, like go with whatever the kids throw at you, whatever happens, like sometimes that is enough. And so many games and songs and sounds and connections, all of that will just come from it naturally. If you want to be there, if that's what you want to do, just you being there, that's enough,
you'll have made such an impact just by being there and being willing and being open, and in the way that you talked about the person sitting by the drum and not really obviously doing very much, but probably that was such an incentive for that person to keep on doing what they were doing, because they were somehow being valued, even just by being somebody being alongside them.
For sure.
So that's really, really interesting. Wow. Well, Bella, I really hope that you manage to find some source of funding to dream up a beautiful project that can build on everything that you've gained from this project, because I can just see you flying like a star with this and bringing such new ideas. And I hope it's the start of us working closely together with over the years.
Me too.
Yeah, thanks so much. It's been just brilliant to hear your insights and your
thank you so much again. Thank you just for the opportunity. It's just been amazing. I feel really blessed. So thank you.
Great, lovely, and thanks for today. It's been great.